The arcade life of a Gen Xer, next on Retro Serial. Hey everyone, welcome to Retro Serial. I'm your host, DNC. I'm glad you could be joining me for this episode. On today's episode, we have Steven Sundstrom, who runs a YouTube channel where he talks about the arts and entertainment, and he discusses things like favorite television shows, kind of where are they now. He does a lot of stuff on MASH. He does a lot of stuff on All in the Family. He even has one of his videos kind of going viral right now, and his channel is growing like crazy. He's just recently surpassed 1,000 subscribers. It's exploding right now, so I definitely wanted to have him on the program. And on the program today, we do talk about arcades and growing up arcades and gaming as a Gen Xer and growing up in that. However, I do want to warn you, and the reason why I'm bringing this up in the first place is because you might have hit that button to listen to this because the title of it is growing up, or are the arcade life of a Gen Xer. We do get to that. But like a lot of conversations, we talk about like music and we talk about movies and we just talk about all kinds of stuff on this. But if you're listening and you're going, well, they're talking a lot about music. Yeah, we do talk a lot about music, but believe me, stick with us. There is a lot in here about the arcade life of a Gen Xer. It does take up a lot of the program, but there's a lot of other stuff too. And when you're choosing a title, it's not like I can choose music, favorite bands, favorite songs. I have to choose one, and I think the kind of middle portion, which took up a majority of the conversation, was the arcade life of a Gen Xer. So stick with it. We will get to that. Now, before we get to the program, I would be completely honored if you would subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. It would really mean a lot to me. And if you want to go a couple extra steps, hit the thumbs up button. That would mean a lot as well. And share it on your favorite social media. Those mean the world to me. They're really small steps for you, but they really do mean so much to us here on the channel. If you're listening to this on podcast form, please give me an honest review and give me a rating and write a review if you can, though that helps this go a long way. And share it on your favorite social media as well if you're listening to this by audio only. What else can you do? Well, you can hit the bell notification if you're on YouTube if you want to know when these things come out. And as always, you can follow the link below to the Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate some of your hard-earned cash to see me grow this YouTube mogul empire. It would mean a lot to me. Every dollar helps. So thank you very much. And now let's get to the interview. All right. Hey, everyone. I am here with Steven Sundstrom. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes, Stefan Sundstrom. Sundstrom.
It's not Stefan, it's Steven.
It is Steven. Yeah, exactly. Stefan Sundstrom.
All right. Well, you
can just call me Steve, though.
Okay, Steve. All right. I will call you Steve. I'm not going to call you
my brother's David, but we just call him Dave.
I'm going to call you Mr. Sundstrom for the whole
No. Mr. Sundstrom is my dad.
Right, exactly. So you have an amazing YouTube channel. And it's starting to really explode right now. And you had a video that's like it's going viral. Is that what's happening?
Well, I guess I don't know what's the definition of viral, but it took off. And so I just keep plugging videos out. And so my brother, a lot of people that probably follow your channel know my brother Dave Sundstrom. I've been watching him do his channel for a few years, and he just seems to have a lot of fun with it. And I thought, I've got some extra time. I've got a lot of interest. They're similar, but that is awesome. I'm about almost 10 years younger than him. I'm 7 years younger. And I thought, I'm going to start doing some videos and just having fun with it. I'll do it as a hobby. Mm-hmm. And so I just started plugging out videos and experimenting. And I did a video about Larry Linville, who played Frank Burns on MASH.
Right.
And I think I dropped it like the day or so, either after Thanksgiving or before Thanksgiving. And I was talking to my brother. He goes, oh, that'll be a good one. And then literally it just like wildfire. It hit.
Right.
None of my other videos had done anywhere near what it did. And I was thinking, most of my videos had like 1,000 hits or less. A lot of them were 300 or 400 hits, views. And then the Larry Linville video hit, and whatever it was, it got caught by the YouTube algorithm gods, and YouTube started serving it out there. And next thing I know, I'm like, holy cow, I've got like 2,000 views in a day, where I usually get maybe 1,200 total. And then it was 4,000, then 8,000, then 10,000, and it's now up to about 230,000. So that's been very giving, that video. It's really helped me build my subscriber base. I wouldn't have nearly the number of subscribers I have had it not been for, rest in peace, Mr. Linville. That video has helped me out. So that video has gone viral, I guess you could say, if 230,000 is viral.
I think 230,000 is viral.
I used to think it was millions, in the millions.
Well, 230,000 is a lot of people watching your videos. And
it is, and then I've been posting videos that are still just getting, 500 or 600 again. So whatever it is, I'm still trying to figure out that YouTube algorithm that helps them put that out there. But in the meantime, I'm just having fun making videos.
For sure. Now, you being 7 years younger than your brother, this squarely puts you within Generation X. And I interviewed your brother, and he said, "Well, I kind of ride the middle ground."
He's right between, but I'm smack dab in the middle of Gen X.
Yeah,
where I think you're about closer to my age.
Yeah, I was born in 73. So,
okay, 71 for me. So yeah, we're close.
We're
in fact,
right
I watched
there.
your video the other day where you talked about alt rock, and I got pulled away right before I could hear your number one alt rock. So I haven't heard who your number one is, but you were listing bands like Sonic Youth, the Violent Femmes. And by the way, I've seen the Violent Femmes live.
Oh man, I'm
probably
so jealous.
3 or 4 times. I love the Femmes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember who else you listed. There was.
Well, I had a few. My number one pick is the Pixies.
Oh, and the Pixies, a great band. You listed the Cult, right?
Yep, the Cult.
Billy
Definitely.
Duffy, great guitarist.
Yes, for sure. And that was one of those bands that really initially turned my head away from what I was listening to heavily, which was a lot of hair metal. And then I turned my attention towards. I mean, I was still listening to a lot of hair metal, but and a lot of other heavy metal too. And it wasn't just hair metal; it was like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and stuff like that. But I was also listening to things like Motley Crue and Rat and Dokken and those kind of things.
Yeah, they were huge when we were a kid.
Oh yeah. And then when kind of the late 80s, like around 89, maybe 88, 89, there seemed to be this emergent of, it was alternative rock, and I gave the definition of it. It was just like you couldn't peg it by any other previous defined music genre.
Right.
And the Cult was one of them, and they were bands that were being played sometimes on the Headbangers Ball, but like a lot of times they were just, this is like they had to actually, they invented Alternative Nation as a result of not knowing where to put this genre of music. And the Cult was one of those bands that I was heavily into at the time.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Yeah, they really are. Jesus and Mary Chain too.
That was the other one you listed. Yes.
Yeah. So, growing up, Generation X, you were you ear to the ground with in the entertainment, listening to the entertainment industry, TV, movies, music, and all that stuff.
Yeah, if I had, I had a job as a dishwasher at a little restaurant here in Bountiful called Bountiful, Utah, where I was raised, that area.
Yes.
Called Robintino's, and I was making $3.35 an hour minimum wage, and any money I got was spent on either music or comic books. I loved comic books at the time, or movies. It was one of those 3 things. I didn't save a dime. I wish I had.
Well, I think we all wish we had saved more money.
And I was a nerd. I wasn't dating very much either, so it went to comic books, movies, or music, and I loved all of those things. And growing up, I used to plow through my brother's record collection. He had vinyl.
Yeah.
I was mostly buying tapes. Tapes were the thing when we were young.
Yeah, me too. I bought I thought vinyl was gone, man. I'm like, vinyl ended up sticking around, and tapes are like no more.
Yeah, tapes are gone, and vinyl's having a resurgence, right?
Yeah, vinyls kind of have that retro resurgent kind of thing going on to it.
To be fair, vinyl, it sounds really good if it's in good condition. It sounds amazing. There's this deep richness about vinyl that even you don't even quite get with a CD. Almost you don't have to worry about scratches and such with CDs. Well, you do,
Right.
but not to the same extent.
And there is the imperfection of it a little bit, that needle running across it that kind of gives you the, I don't know, that pull back to your youth kind of a thing.
Oh yeah.
There's something perfect about the imperfection of vinyl when you put. I don't have any vinyl right now actually at all. I everything I listen to is downloaded at this point.
I've moved all to download and streaming as well. It's just so convenient not to have to store it somewhere.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I still have a truckload of CDs around somewhere. I've, mostly because you have to pay for a lot. I mean, you can always pirate music, but like you have to pay for music. But if you like, I have an Apple subscription, and so like I put all my CDs on Apple, and now I get to listen to them, on Apple. But they're all somewhere in some drawer at this point.
Right. Yes. All mine are in big Tupperware bins down in the crawl space.
So were you into the alternative rock scene growing up?
I was into lots of things. So my brother was a big influence of what I listened to because I would go listen to his records since they, for a while we shared a room, but then I would just go steal records out of his room. And so bands like, he was into a lot of like the new wave British music, but also just classic rock like Cheap Trick.
Yes.
Cheap Trick, The Cars, stuff like that. So I was going in and grabbing those records and listening to those. But also starting, he had like an Oingo Boingo album, the one Only a Lad, if you remember Oingo Boingo.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Danny
he had
Elfman's
the Only a
legend.
Lad album, which was so good, and Nothing to Fear, which was awesome. Yeah, Danny Elfman. So I started listening to that stuff, The Smiths, The Cure. I know you mentioned The Cure on your podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
And,
those were all big influences on, I mean, when you think of alternative rock, of course, alternative rock is such a mixture of music, particularly when it first came out. But one of the influences on alternative rock was a lot of new wave. People who listened to early alternative, people who were listening to bands like, Jesus and Mary Chain, were also listening to bands like The Cure. Things like that. It was, they were people were listening to Jane's Addiction. We're listening to, the Thompson Twins as well,
Yes, exactly.
Some of my favorite bands, new wave was certainly, I loved new wave at the time when it came out. I was still pretty little guy when it came out. I was still kind of, well, let's see. Yeah, I was pretty by the time
like 10 or 11.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
But of course, it was on the radio. The Human League.
Right.
That video with the duet. Where the "Don't You Want Me, Baby" or whatever.
Exactly. Good stuff. It's all still good. There's a reason those '80s pre-pandemic. There were those '80s revival concerts where they'd have like 4 or 5 bands from the 80s play, their hits.
Yeah, for sure.
People love those. It's a chance to just go back and listen to, and they're good songs.
Yeah, for sure. Did you evolve a little bit when the alternative scene broke in '91? Did you go, oh, well, here's over, or were you already kind of connected to it?
Yeah, I think I have a pretty diverse taste when it comes to music. So that's what I was listening to back then. But I started listening to some heavy metal, a little bit more heavy metal. One of my favorite bands was Queensryche.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, how could you not be listening to Def Leppard in the late 80s? Their album, Hysteria, was, and I think every song on that was a hit. And just so many good albums. So, yeah, I started listening to other things as well. And then in the early 90s, it was like 92, 93, the grunge hit. Yeah. And, I was out buying Nirvana's albums, and my little sister was into Pearl Jam. She liked Pearl Jam.
Oh, no. And then we'll pray for her.
That's right. And then it was the industrial music started to come out too, which evolved from that alternative.
I forgot to mention a band when I was doing my top 5, and I said, here are some honorable mentions. when I was done filming with it, and I go, oh gosh, the one band that I forgot to mention that I really needed to mention was Nine Inch Nails. That industrial sound that they had was certainly squarely in alternative rock. Pretty Hate Machine was
Yeah.
certainly an alternative rock album. I mean, it couldn't be defined. There was no
Yeah. All of that industrial would be hard to like. Is it heavy metal? Is it
yeah.
wave?
Yeah.
It could go on any. I like Front 242, 9 Inch Nails. There's so many of those bands.
Ministry. Do you remember
Yep.
Ministry? Yeah, Ministry.
Yeah, Ministry started out pretty new wavy initially, and then became very industrial and heavy.
Yeah, it's like heavy synth pop. Basically,
Yes.
It's like synth pop, but they do heavy metal with the synthesizer instead of the lighter stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Good stuff. Yeah, I loved all of that.
Yeah, I did too. There were bands though that I didn't like. You mentioned one, and I gotta say that I wasn't a huge. Well, let me put it this way: I wasn't a
guess. It's
okay.
the Smiths.
No, I love the
okay.
Smiths.
All right.
One band that I'll say there was one album I didn't like. I liked their earlier album, but Hysteria, I couldn't stand it. I actually did not like Hysteria. Everybody,
that album had so many hits. It got overplayed. Was that it?
It was too smooth for me, even then.
Okay. Yeah.
It was too refined. People say this to me today, like for example, that remake that of the Simon and Garfunkel song that just recently like within the last 5 years, that came out by I can't remember. It's The Sounds of Silence. It's that song, and a band remade it recently. Forgot.
Okay.
You know who it is.
I haven't heard the remake. At least I can't think about it.
Well, there's a lot of covers of it, but it was one of those big rock bands, and I listened. A friend sent it to me. Oh, you're gonna love this, and I'm like, it's just too smooth. It's too homogenized. I guess I could say, and I honestly I never liked that. I never liked that sound when it came out. Like it's like too pretty. It's
too
like
polished. Yes.
Too polished. It's like,
that's why I like live music. It's raw.
Yeah, for sure. But Queensryche, boy, Operation Mindcrime, boy, that I wore that tape out. I'll tell you that much. I played that over and over again. Did you see the video? Did you see the
movie they made?
Yeah.
Well, yes, and I saw them in concert supporting the Empire tour, but they played Mindcrime start to finish during that concert. They played the whole album from start to finish. It was amazing.
Well, I love that band, but for me, Operation Mindcrime was the pinnacle. It's
the best.
It was, they had good albums before with good songs, but not the greatest overall. And then afterwards, they had good songs as well. But I mean, Operation Mindcrime for me was like the pinnacle of what they of who they were as a band.
Yeah, I totally agree. They might have had more commercial success with the follow-up album, which was Empire.
Yes. Yeah.
That had, a Jet City Woman, Another Rainy Night, and it had the hit Silent Lucidity, which is a good song. But you're right. Operation Mindcrime is special. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's a concept album too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It tells one entire story.
Yep.
Which was fun. Kind of like The Wall, Pink Floyd,
right.
The Wall.
Exactly. Or Tommy by The Who, right?
Right. For sure. Those are fun.
And then of course Queensryche today, when they travel, it's without Jeff Tate, the lead singer. And so it's just not the same.
It is.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, in fact, Dave and I went and saw them here in Wendover a few years back, and they're good, but they can only play certain songs. There's like this legal battle that was between the two groups, and so Jeff Tate's gone off on his own, and so they can only play certain songs, and so it's not quite the same.
Yeah,
it's too bad because they were fantastic when they were together.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I have not kept up with them as a band as of late, but that's unfortunate. That really, there are some bands where there's a certain where everybody's a great musician, but there's a certain musician in the band that really makes the band stand out. And for me, when I'm thinking about Queensryche, I'm thinking about the lead singer. It's not that everybody else wasn't good. I mean, everybody else was fantastic, but the guy just had such an overpowering voice, and he was so good at singing that you can't think of Queensryche without thinking of, of
Jeff Tate.
Of Jeff Tate. And so to hear that they're not together anymore is kind of sad.
Yeah, it really
is he touring on his own though? Does he play?
He does. He tours, and I think he uses like the moniker like Jeff Tate of Queensryche or something like that.
Right.
He can't call himself Queensryche legally. That name belongs to the other guys from the band.
Yeah. Same thing happened with I didn't know if you knew. Well, at least I heard this, but the same thing happened with Roger Waters and Pink Floyd. I mean, he was one of the main writing forces of Pink Floyd.
I think he wrote most of The Wall.
Yeah. Yeah, and he got none of it. He could play it live, but I mean, it was just, when he left, it was Roger Waters and Pink Floyd. You know what I mean?
Right.
Pink Floyd retained Pink Floyd, and Roger Waters had to be Roger Waters.
It's too bad because, man, Pink Floyd's had a few follow-up albums that were good. I liked A Momentary Lapse of Reason, but they haven't had anything to near the quality of The Wall. Yeah.
Did you listen to any of the who's the guy I just mentioned, the lead singer there? Did you listen
Roger
to
Waters solo stuff?
Yeah, Roger Waters solo stuff.
I'm trying to remember. He's had a couple. I think there was one called Radio Waves or Radio Chaos.
There was one called Amused to Death. I
have not listened to that.
It's an excellent album. It's really one of those all the way, listen to the whole thing all the way through. I don't think it's a concept album, but it's really super good. I highly recommend at least one time.
I need to pick that up and listen to it. Yeah.
It's a little maddening. It's like listening to kind of like a madman ramble on. I know that's not who he is for real, but that's a little bit of a persona he has musically.
Yeah.
Where he plays this guy who's insane, based on Sid, basically. Yeah. That's in The Wall was based on Sid.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's intense. It's an intense album. It's got
Amused to Death, right?
Yeah, Amused to Death.
I'll have to listen to that.
Definitely give that one. He invites some other singers on there because his voice just doesn't quite hold up, now that he's a bit older. And that's like years old. That was back in the 90s that came out.
Yeah. So
anyway. Well, cool, man. Well, let's talk some more. I actually wanted to. You brought some stuff up in the email you sent me that I actually wanted to get into.
Okay, yeah.
And I actually thought, well, this would make a great focus for a podcast talking retro, growing up late 70s, 80s, early 90s, and that is video games.
Oh, yes. Arcade games.
Did you spend time in the arcade?
I did. There was an actual arcade. There were always arcade games at like the grocery stores and the amusement parks and the big malls, right? But there was a standalone arcade here in Bountiful for a little while. And I don't remember what it's called, like the 4th Street Arcade or something like that. And I would go there with my brother. Him and his friends would be going there, and he'd give me a couple bucks and let me tag along. And I always loved the game. Asteroids was my game. Loved Asteroids.
Really? Yeah.
Yes.
That's a fun game. Did you have an Atari?
I did. Yeah. One of my Christmases, I'm going to guess 1980, 81. I got an Atari.
Yeah.
You're talking the 2600, right?
Oh, yeah. That's what I mean. I
had a friend later on that said, yeah, I've got an Atari. I went over to his house and it was an Atari computer.
Yeah, that's not what I want to play.
That's right.
That's not fun at all. Yeah, I remember Asteroids on there. That was one of those games on, there were games in the arcade, and then there were games on the Atari, and they didn't even look close or similar. But I remember Asteroids being one of those games that held up pretty well on the Atari.
It did.
It was pretty close to what you saw in the arcade, where Pac-Man wasn't at all. I mean, Pac-Man was almost a different game.
Right. Yeah, more square. Just the graphics weren't as good. How
Right.
about you? Did you were you young enough that you spent time in any
I
arcades?
spent all my money at the arcade. I literally like I remember that there was a summer there, and this I was living in Cedar, and there was an arcade there called Chuck's Arcade, and I got like $5 a week in allowance, and I think I bought a candy bar and a soda pop, and then the rest was at Chuck's Arcade. As a matter of fact, I spent so much money there, and I would just literally hang out there. And I spent so much money there that there were times where they would just, I mean, I knew the owners and stuff, his son and the dad, and they would give me tokens, and they had you get $1 and then you get six tokens instead of four.
Right. Yep.
Did they have that where you were at, or what?
We had to use real quarters. There were no tokens.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
you get
you're
extra
loading your
ones.
pockets with quarters and shoving those quarters in one at a time.
Oh, well, they would literally like give me tokens. Because I'd just come in and hang out. I'd come in and hang out and talk with them, and they'd be like, "All right, well, here's some tokens and go play."
That's
And because
awesome.
they knew that I was going to spend my money there.
Yeah, taking care of the frequent customer.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely.
What was your favorite games?
Oh gosh. Okay, so I had a few. The Star Wars game that came out that you sat in. Do you remember that one?
Yeah,
And
I sure do.
You're doing the trench run.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then R2 gets blown up, and that was like
Yep.
you could take so many hits. Like, and then R2 was the last one. If R2 got blown up, then the next hit was you were done.
You're done. Yep.
that was one of my favorite ones. Another one of my favorite ones was Space Ace and Dragon Slayer. Remember those when that
Dragon
came
Slayer
out?
was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, when it actually looked like a cartoon.
It looked like a cartoon. Yep.
Yeah, and you had like each one you had certain moves on the joystick you had to do in order to make him.
Yes.
Yeah, they had another one too. I don't know if you ever saw that, which was Space Ace.
I don't remember Space Ace so well.
It was the same. It was
Okay.
like it was exactly like Dragon Slayer, except for it's a space rather than knights and dragons and
Right.
stuff like that. But those two were really super good ones. I like some of the car games, where you're
Yep.
driving the car.
Pole position.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one right there.
Yep.
I forgot the name; it slipped my mind. But I like the music on that one.
And then there was a game that was kind of a car game and a spy game, Spy Hunter.
Yes, I remember that, where you had the jets out the back.
Yep.
And then you had, or not like the smoke, and then the oil slick.
Exactly. Yep.
Was that the one? Is that the one?
I think so. Yeah. It was just another. I always played it because it was a car and a spy game, and I think it had kind of like it had spy music. I'm going to say it's James Bond music, but it probably wasn't the James Bond song.
Yeah, I remember that too. It was kind of like a mimicking James Bond kind of a song.
Yeah,
well.
and another one of my favorite games was Tron, which you had a bunch of different you played the light cycles, and there were the spiders you had to shoot through.
Yeah,
that was a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, that was a fun game.
Of course, you like the movie Tron came out, which made me want to play the game all that much more.
Right. Did you love the movie, or did you like
the movie?
Yeah, for sure. What about the reboot? Did you like the reboot or the part two?
Absolutely. Loved it. I loved how they tied it in.
Yeah.
I was ready for another one after that. I was like, yeah, keep them coming. Especially that one, it was so good, and it had the music from Daft Punk.
Oh,
and, it was great. And Jeff Bridges is awesome in everything he's ever in.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was fantastic in what was it called? Tron Legacy.
Yeah, right.
And so I was ready for another one. I'm not sure what happened. It must not have made enough money.
That's unfortunate. Sometimes you get a really good movie, and if it doesn't make the money, then they just don't.
Yeah, even if it does okay, unless it just makes a ton, then it's like, well, maybe not, right?
Right. Yeah, that happened with the Amazing Spider-Man. They had two really good movies, and then they never made a third one. I thought they were really good. I liked the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. I like the Tobey Maguire ones as well.
Yes.
But I did like the Amazing Spider-Man. But they only made two, and they were planning to make a third, and the second one just didn't do as well.
Yeah. Although I will say, I think the current version of Spider-Man, it's probably as much as I liked Tobey Maguire and I can't think of that other guy's name, the middle guy, but
Yeah.
the new guy, that kid that's
Yeah.
playing Spider-Man now, he's really good. Andrew
Yeah.
Garfield was the middle,
Yeah, that's
right?
right. Andrew Garfield, right.
Andrew
Yeah.
Garfield and Tom Holland is the current Spider-Man, and he's fantastic. And I like him because at least he seems younger.
Yeah. He definitely brings a youth to the character. You don't have to pretend so much that he's young.
Right. He fits in as a high schooler where
Right.
I don't know if Tobey Maguire did. I mean, he sort of did maybe in the first one, but I knew he was a lot older than that.
Right, right, for sure. So when you got your Atari, what games did you play? What games did you get?
Missile Command, I think I got that. Which
Uh-huh.
in the arcade, you had like a ball that you had to spin around. If you remember the table for that.
I do.
But of course,
Totally.
everything you just with the Missile Command, I think you still use the joystick on the 2600. Played a lot of Missile Command, a lot of Asteroids. Pitfall by Activision.
Oh,
Do you remember Pitfall?
Oh yeah, I do. I'd never had it, but it was one of those ones that I really wanted, and I never got it.
It was great. We had Miss Pac-Man on the 2600, which was much better than the Pac-Man version that came out.
Ah,
And I'm trying to remember. I had a game kind of like Pole Position, but it wasn't called Pole Position. Enduro, I think is what it was called.
huh.
It was okay.
With the you had
No,
to
you
turn
still use the joystick and move the car back and forth. I'm trying to remember if I had any games you used those paddles for. Pong came with it, right?
Yeah, I think Pong came with it. I think mine came with a game called Target Fun or something like that. It was one of those kind of just do you remember that game or no?
I don't remember Target Fun.
It would be like a G-rated game today. It wasn't even bloody or anything. It was more like a target came and you had to shoot at it or whatever.
Yeah. Did that come with your system?
It's hard to say because I got it used, and so
okay.
I had heard that it came with it, but I don't know for
Well, I recall coming with it was a game called Combat, which had like tanks, had like some airplanes.
Yeah, I remember that.
It might have been it.
Yeah, I remember that. So one game that I absolutely loved on the Atari was Defender.
Oh uh, well, even the stand-up arcade version of that was great.
Yes, yeah, that was great. Talk about a child dream. So my mom was working at a laundromat at the time. And in the laundromat they had arcade games, they had the snack machine in the arcade.
Well,
game,
why wouldn't they? Everybody's going there with quarters anyways to do the laundry.
Right. You got to
as well have an arcade game.
So I forgot that it's the one where you there's barriers and then the space people come down and you hide under it.
Oh yeah, Space Invaders.
Space Invaders. Okay, thanks. I don't know where my mind is tonight, but for some reason it just stayed on, and it just this one night, literally, it stayed on. And I played that thing for probably a good 2 hours. I actually got to play it so much that I was finally done playing it. I don't know. I never had that experience before where I was done playing a game other than
I'm
Atari.
done.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I never had that many quarters or tokens growing up,
Sure.
that I could just go like, what, I've played this game so much, I'm done.
I'm sick of it.
But I finally got to the point because it was just, I put the quarter in and I was thinking of playing a game and it didn't quit. It just kept.
Even after all your guys died, it kept letting you play?
It wasn't the same game, but it'd start a new game. It would just start a new game. It had a quirk in it,
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was one of those wish come true kind of things.
I remember do you remember video? So my experience with home video was before VHS, we had a thing called a video disc player. It wasn't laser discs.
Okay.
It was video discs. They were in these plastic sleeves, and they were basically records. And so you would slide this disc into the video disc player. It would play half the movie. Then it would say, "Please change the side." You'd slide that sleeve in, pull it back out, flip it over, slide it back in, and then it would play the second side of the movie. And there was this place by our house that I could walk to when I was a kid that rented those video discs, but he had a Dig Dug machine. Do you remember Dig Dug?
Yeah, for sure.
And there was something wrong with his machine where it would do that same thing. It would just keep letting you play. And my friends and I took advantage of that one day, and I think he finally caught on. And we, of course, felt very guilty, as we knew we way past our quarter.
Right. You're way past your. And he knew you were way past looking over there. How long did that go on before he realized?
I don't know, 35, 40 minutes maybe. I'm not sure how long it was.
I saw that. Now, did you ever okay, so there was like bullies that I had to deal with at the arcade where basically like they would stack their quarters or tokens next to the machine. Like they're
trying to get you to leave.
Yeah. Well, Oh, well, no, you couldn't get on the machine. Like they would literally just keep their quarters up and then just, play the next one. And you're like, I like to play that game, man. I like to be my turn. And be like, not my turn. No, not for you, buddy. Get out of here.
I don't know if I ever dealt with that.
Yeah. I remember that on, cause there was a video game that came out and it was in the 7-Eleven, and you still have 7-Elevens up there, don't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep.
What was interesting about down here is we got rid of all our 7-Elevens for some reason. They all turned to Mavericks.
Oh, they're all gone?
They're all gone down here. There's no 7-Elevens where I am at. They're gone. There used to be 7-Elevens, but they all turned to Mavericks.
No Slurpees for you.
Yeah. No Slurpees.
Of course, I know you've been working on that weight loss. I watched a little bit of that video too. So probably not a lot of Slurpees anyway.
No, not unless it's
sugar.
A cheat day or something like that. But there was a new video game that came out that was called Karate. Remember that?
I do remember Karate. Yes.
Oh man, I
don't think I played it very much, but I remember the machine.
It was the best, man. It was at a 7-Eleven. That's why I'm bringing up 7-Eleven. But like it had different, like if you went, it had 2 joysticks, and each side you could fight each other, and it had 2 joysticks, and if you went back, you jump back. If you jump back, you jump forward. You went forward, and if you did one, it would punch, and if you did the back one, it would kick. But then they had these cool moves, like if you pulled them apart, it would do a roundhouse kick, a circular kick.
Okay, yeah.
And if you go down and in, it would do like a sweep. And of course, I don't know if you knew this. I think I've talked about this on the program before, but I don't know if you've heard it before. But I'm super into martial arts. I've been into martial arts since I was a young lad. And so that game was ticking all the bells. I was just like, I really want to play that game a lot. But I went there, and of course, I was just a kid. I was just like 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
And there's all these older kids, and they just had their core.
They were dominating.
Backed up. Yeah, they were dominating. I'm sitting there, man. Come on, I'd like to play that game. Oh well.
They had squatters' rights, is basically what they felt, and until they were done, you could just kiss off, to quote Violent Femmes.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Did you ever have any of the other gaming stations growing up, Gen X? What about?
No, you know what? So we had the 2600, and I don't recall us having like an Intellivision or a game. Even the first version of the game, what it was, just Nintendo. We didn't have a Nintendo. We started buying. My brother started buying home computers. He bought a Texas Instruments computer.
Oh wow!
I remember that.
Yeah.
TI, which had a few games, and then we got into Commodore computers, the Commodore 128.
Yep. Yeah.
And there were a lot of good games on that. But no, and then it was not until I was an adult that I actually bought the Sony PlayStation. Was my first I want a game system again. I bought the first PlayStation.
Yeah. Okay.
Which was freaking awesome.
Yeah, the PlayStations were cool. I never again got into games. I kind of got out of it after a while. I was kind of I did get later on, like maybe early 2000s. They sold the thing that looked like a joystick from Atari, and it has all the Atari games in it.
Yeah, you could buy it at like Smith's or whatever, right?
Yeah. I got that a while back, and that was fun. That got some good good games going on. And then the other thing that happened was this was a little bit before this was kind of before the smartphone, smart TV. We got the Lord of the Rings game where that came with the sword, where you put the camera on your TV. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that. It sounds
Okay.
awesome though.
Yeah, it was actually about when the Lord of the Rings came out, so it was like 2003 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you had a sword, and it had a camera on that could sit on your TV, and it was kind of flat. So this gives you an idea still that you're basically still dealing with the box TV and not the flat
Sure.
screen TV,
Yeah.
because it just sits there, and then you swing the sword, and it monitors what your
The
height.
movement, right?
Yeah. And then you play the game, and you kill the bats, and you go and you fight the Balrogs and all that
That sounds
kind of stuff.
awesome as well. TVs are so thin these days; it might not even sit up there, right?
No, it couldn't now. I still have it here somewhere. It's like in a box somewhere. And I actually were moving one time, and I pulled it out, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's an antique now. That's antiquated. You can look at that and go, oh, okay, that was meant to set on something square and flat, and it's not going to
Yes.
set on your TV today. All right, so moving on to the next subject. You mentioned the SS Minnow.
Oh yes, Gilligan's Island, right?
Gilligan's Island. All right, so we're gonna play the top 5 game, because you and I are both Gilligan's Island fans, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I was. Was that one of the shows you got to watch?
Watched it in syndication, right? Because it was originally done in the '60s. I was born in '71, but I'd come home from school and it'd be on. One of the 3 or 4 channels that we had at the time. It's before we had cable.
Right. Yeah. Before we had cable, and growing up in Utah as well.
Yes.
I remember channel 20. Remember channel 20?
Yeah, it was channel 20.
And then you had ABC, NBC, and then there was
CBS.
channel and CBS, and then you had
channel 11 and 7, the PBS channels.
Yes, yeah, for sure. And that was it, unless you had one of those remember the big, huge satellite dishes, and you'd go over to your friend's house, and then
yes.
they'd have to either they had the remote or they had to actually crank it.
Yep. Yeah, I had a friend that had one of those big satellite dishes in his backyard.
That was the first time I ever got to watch MTV, was on those satellite dishes, because we didn't have cable for a long time, until like 87, I think, is when we first got cable.
It probably was close to about the same time we got it.
Yeah. So at that point, then of course I was watching, MTV and all that stuff. But before that, it was literally I remember channel 20. I remember watching Benny Hill. Remember Benny Hill?
Oh yeah.
10 o'clock at night, Benny Hill.
Benny Hill, Shawn on Na, I think, was one of the shows that would come on late at night.
Yes, yeah, for sure. All right, so
and Gilligan's Island after school, of course.
Yeah, well, then that was one of the. Was it after school, or is it one of those stay homes where, like, if you were sick, you got to watch it?
I thought it was after school. I don't remember watching it when I stayed home. When I would stay home, I would talk my mom into letting me stay home, which I did far too often. She was too easy on me when it would come to, I'd pull a Ferris Bueller. Oh, I'm
right,
sick,
yeah.
I'm sick. And then, I'd stay home, and I watched Rockford Files all the time during that. It was on during the day, the reruns. Loved Rockford Files, and I would watch the game shows. I loved Price is Right.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, Price is Right.
Yeah,
that's what you watched when you stayed home, was the Price is Right. You're like, whoa, cool. Price
exactly.
Is Right. Price is Right. So, but the show is not just about like what came out in the 80s and 90s and late 70s. It's about what affected us as we were growing up. And Gilligan's Island certainly was one of those shows, because it was in syndication, along with like the Beverly Hillbillies and stuff like that. Even though it was all black and white, it was great. I watched it. It affected me.
The Monkees. I watched the Monkees, which was a rerun, I think, too. I watched that in syndication, but it was awesome.
It was great. And
the Brady Bunch, which probably I was watching mostly in syndication.
Yeah. I think that ended in 74 or something like that.
Yeah, so I would have been like 3. So I'm sure I was watching reruns of it.
Yeah, I was watching reruns as well. I loved the Monkees. But did you ever watch the travesty of the New Monkees?
I did not.
Oh, goodness.
Was it the same guys?
No, no, no. It was
Okay.
because the Monkees were so popular in syndication in about like 1987.
Yeah, mid
They
80s, right?
they tried to revive it by doing a new band, and they were called the Monkees, and totally different. You can see a couple episodes on YouTube, as a matter
I'll
of
have to try
fact.
to check it out and see how long I can stand it.
It's horrible. It's not even funny. It's absolutely horrible. So okay, we'll do top fives. We'll do top fives. So
Okay.
you're stranded on the desert island, and if you and you have a record player for some
Yeah, you have a
reason.
record player. Somehow the professor has rigged up a record player.
That guy could do anything, and he couldn't
He
get him
really
off
could.
the island. I think, well, of course, they get off the island. That ends the show, right?
Maybe they had the record player on the boat. Who's to say?
Right. So top 5 albums.
Top 5 albums that you could take with you. And the great thing about these lists, top 5, is who's to say your top 5's wrong, Ian?
No, that's nobody's is wrong.
It's just fun. It's just for fun.
It's just fun to talk about. Like if you only had 5 albums to listen to,
that's what you're going to listen to when you're not hanging out with Marianne and Ginger.
Right.
Which course. Why would you not always be hanging out with Marianne and Ginger?
I don't know. I know.
But yeah, so what? I threw out the question: if you were going to have 5 albums with you, and you're going to be stuck there for who knows how long,
yeah.
What are the 5 albums you're taking with you?
Oh, me? Okay, you're asking me.
Yeah. Well, I'm throwing it out. Do you want me to go first?
Well, I don't care. I can go first. It's a tough one it would be a tough one for me, because I love music so much. It would be so hard.
You can change your answer tomorrow, but for today, what are your top 5?
Well, okay. Now I have to give this caveat. This would be excluding anything religious at this point, because
let's exclude religious, and I should have told you in the email. Let's exclude best of collections. Those are the cheats, anyways.
Yeah. Okay. So I would definitely have to have Nevermind there for sure. Nevermind would be there. I'd have to have. That's one of those albums that I can listen to backward and forward and back and over again. Although oddly not my favorite Nirvana album. My favorite Nirvana album is actually Incesticide. People don't, that's actually my favorite one, but I don't know if there's something about Nevermind that I would have to have.
So if you had to narrow it down to 5, it's Nevermind is one of those.
Yes.
Okay.
Another album that I listen to constantly that I wear out over and over again is Monkey by Jesus and Mary Chain. I just listen to that over and over again.
You wore out the tape.
It was CD. I didn't wear it out. So but as far as getting a lot of use out of it, because that didn't come out till like 95 or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It was after tapes.
Yeah. I would definitely have to say Doolittle by the Pixies would definitely be on there. That's one of those. That is a tape that I did wear out. I did get that one on tape and wore that sucker out along with Trompe la Mode. That's 3, right?
Yeah, that's 3.
Okay. A band that I actually absolutely love, and a lot of people, they've got a pretty good following, but a lot of people like our age don't really know about it because it's a newer band. Came out in 2003 as a band called Brand New.
I don't know them. No.
I would. They're definitely worth your time. Brand New. Their first one is called Choose Your Favorite Weapon. It's not my favorite. It's certainly a good album, but it's way more punk.
Yeah.
Their other albums sound like a cross between, especially their second album, literally sounds like a cross between the Violent Femmes and The Cure.
Oh.
Believe it or not.
Hard to imagine a cross between them.
Listen to their second album. It's great. It's called it's got a French name to it, so I can't even pronounce it. Okay. But their third album, called Jesus or God and the Devil Are Raging Inside of Me, is gold. I'd have to pick that one, I guess. But every album they've done has really been really good. Okay. Daisy's been good. Science fiction's been good. They've been great. Look them up. Seriously, they're well worth your time looking up.
Yeah.
And let's see, a
Number
fourth
5.
number 5. Oh, number 5. I don't know. Something out of the box, maybe, so it's not all alternative stuff. Although alternative is my main staple these days. Maybe Theater of Pain by Motley Crue. Maybe that.
That's a good list.
Yeah.
So, well, I tried to think about it last night after I sent that email off, and I made a list. It's more than 5. So then I was like, okay, here's the big
you did
list.
Your,
If I
you
can
did
only
your
take
homework.
5,
Yes.
which again I can change it up. If I get crashed and land on an island later on, I might choose a different 5. But the top 5 I went with was Pet Shop Boys, which was their second album. The first album had the hit West End Girls and Opportunity. Let's Make Lots of Money, that song. But actually it has some sentimental meaning. The album does to me. On my 18th birthday, 1989, my older sister, who had cystic fibrosis, was in the hospital the night before my birthday, and she passed away that night. And so I woke up the next day to find out that she had passed, but she had thought my brother's birthday's coming up. And so she had had her husband go buy that tape for me, and I listened to that and listened to that and listened to that and listened to that. And it's a great album. It's got the song "It's a Sin."
Yep.
But it's also got the duet they did with Dusty Springfield, "What Have I Done to Deserve This?"
Yeah.
Which is a great song.
Well, they're a great band. We didn't mention them before, but I love them.
They're really good.
When I started doing digital downloads, like that was one of the first group, and It's a Sin was one of them that I got. And What Have I Done to Deserve This? I was just like looking it up. Pet Shop Boys. I'm like, oh, I'm going to buy that one. I'm going to buy that one. I'm going to buy that one. They were one of the first. Well, with digital downloads, you don't have to buy the whole thing.
Right.
You can kind of buy the songs you want. And when I first started doing digital downloads, the Pet Shop Boys were one of the first group of bands that I bought.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
they're fantastic, and that album, every track is rock solid. And so it's just one of those albums, like you said on a couple of yours, from beginning to end, it's solid.
Yeah.
So that was number 1. Number 2 was Skylarking by XTC.
Okay. Yeah.
Produced by Todd Rundgren, and it had the song "Dear God."
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that song?
I am. Yeah.
Love that album. It's I'm a big Todd Rundgren fan. I like Todd McFarlane too, but Rundgren, and I think he's a great producer. But Andy Partridge, his lyrics, and just the type of music they do, I love it. So that would be number 2. Number 3 would be an album by Midnight Oil. I know you're familiar with Midnight Oil.
Oh, for sure.
And of course, their mega hits, what's it called? Beds Are Burning.
Yep.
But it's not that album I would take. It's an album that came out before that called Red Cells in the Sunset.
Okay. I've never even listened to a whole album of theirs. I know. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have to right now, while I'm, if you don't mind pausing you for just a second.
Sure.
I have to go back and I have to change my number 5. It would be Kick by NXS. Sorry.
Oh, man. Great album, right?
That would definitely, I forgot, it's just like one of those things you're thinking about. But now that I think about it and you're, mentioning another Australian band there, Kick by NXS definitely would be on there.
Yeah, I like the Australian bands. NXS is awesome. Midnight Oil, Ice House, a great Australian band.
I didn't know they were
Red Cells in the Sunset. It's fantastic. You should check it out.
Okay. All right.
Number 4, and this is also an Australian band now that I think of it. Crowded House, Woodface. Oh,
yeah. Crowded House. I didn't know they were Australian.
They are. And Neil Finn, the lead singer-songwriter, great songwriter. In fact, I think Paul McCartney said that he thinks Neil Finn might be the best songwriter he's ever heard. And that album, Woodface, is awesome.
Cool.
So that would be, and then my last one, this is one of those albums I used to steal and listen to with my brothers, but it's a band called The Tubes. They're a band out of San Francisco. and the album is Outside Inside. It had that song She's a Beauty. Remember that song?
No, I definitely heard of the Tubes, but I don't. Nothing's coming to mind. I mean, I've heard that band name before, but I don't
Yeah.
know. It's kind of like there are some bands that I've heard before, and I know I've heard a song or two, but I don't know their music that well. Like
So that would have came out in the mid '80s.
Okay.
Great album, great album. So that's my top five. I might change my opinion in a few days, but right
Yeah,
now
of
that's what I'm
course.
going with.
Right. Those are great bands, man. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. Some obscure music too. Dear God is one of those obscure songs that were semi-popular at the time, but it didn't have this huge following. So that's cool. I mean, I always like listening to underground bands. I always like listening to bands that you go, oh wow, I didn't even know they existed. Brand New's kind of that way. I definitely recommend you checking it out. You'll love them. You'll love them.
Yeah, I need to check them out. By the way, I have Operation Mindcrime on the list. It just didn't make the final cut. I had the wall on there.
The Wall, what a great album that is.
And I had Joshua Tree by U2, but it didn't make the top five.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Another one that would come close to top five for me is anything REM has ever done.
I have
love
Green by REM.
Green was excellent. Yeah. One of their albums that was one of my favorite albums and nobody liked it was New Adventures in Hi-Fi.
I love that album too. It is good.
It's really good, but people just didn't like it. I don't
No,
know what
they didn't. And Monster, they didn't love that one either.
I loved Monster. I saw them on their Monster tour.
Oh, I didn't know they came through. So did you see them in Salt Lake?
No, I saw them in Vegas. So,
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that was they had not done a tour in like 5 years, and then they came out, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna go see them. It was one of the only big bands that I ever saw actually on stage.
That might have been one of their last tours.
I think so. I think they may have toured a couple more times, but they were so rich they didn't need the tour to promote their albums.
No, they didn't. They really didn't. But yeah, Monster had that song, What's the Frequency, Kenneth, which is just an awesome song.
Yeah, and Crush with Eyeliner. And and there was for me that was a solid album. That was really a solid album.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so last top five, and then we'll wrap. I want people to know where they can find you and all that stuff. But we'll do top five movies. Okay, so if you had to do five movies, you go ahead. I'll let you go first.
So we're gonna do the reel-to-reel on a screen there on the desert island.
Sure.
Or top five.
You downloaded the movies on your iPhone, and you have
there we go.
And you have a solar generator.
Perfect.
But no signal, so you can't no signal, so you can't call. But whatever's on your phone, you can watch or listen.
I can watch it. Yep. So my favorite movie of all time is Rocky, the original Rocky. So great. Sure. Anybody growing up in the 80s, of course, Rocky was in the mid to late 70s. The first one, I think it was like 76, 77. But it's such a great movie.
Yeah, for sure.
So, written by Stallone.
Yes.
And it won Best Picture the year it came out.
Did you know the dog in that show was his dog?
Yes, I knew that. And he had to sell that dog.
Yep, he had to sell it, and then he bought it back. He
went back when he made some money and bought it back. Yes. Yeah. He took a big. Basically, he wanted that Rocky script. He baked everything on that, basically.
Yeah, he did. Good bet.
Paid off, and huge. So Rocky would be number one. Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
As much as I love Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back just blew me away when I saw that as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord of the Rings. I'm gonna have to say the trilogy, but that might take up all of my.
No, you can
3 slots. Can I call that one?
Yeah, you can call it one.
All right, the Lord of the Rings trilogy that Peter Jackson did, amazing. The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, number 4.
Right.
And number 5. I'm going to throw this one out. To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh yeah. good,
I
great,
love that movie.
great
Yeah.
book. Good
Yep.
movie too. Yeah, really good movie. Top five for me. Well, I would definitely the number one position would be The Empire Strikes Back. That's for sure. Probably number two would be A New Hope. Would definitely be. I couldn't stop. Yeah, that's it. I couldn't live without watching those for sure. Return of the Jedi, I love all the way up to the Ewoks. After the Ewoks, I mean, the barge scene in Jabba's Hutt's palace is great. The beginning of the show is great. You get to the Ewoks, and it just might as well be a different movie. Anyway,
Right.
so
We saw it in the theater. I'm sure you saw it in the theater.
oh yeah, yeah.
I didn't walk out hating it, but it wasn't The Empire Strikes Back by any means.
No. Well, I was really young at the time, so I didn't walk out hating it. I actually walked out loving it. But as
Sure.
I got older, and looking
Yes.
back on it, I'm like, Empire holds up the best. A New Hope holds up really well. Really,
Yep.
both really good shows.
So what is your number three then? You got
So my number three would be Lord of the Rings, probably that trilogy, if I could
Yep.
use that as one trilogy. Definitely a number four would be Peaceful Warrior, because I love the book so much that I'd have to have the movie.
I haven't seen that. Who's in that?
A bunch of no names,
Okay.
except for the guy who plays Socrates, which is Nick Nolte. Nick Nolte's in it.
Okay.
But
I'll have
the
to look that one
main
up.
star, yeah, I don't know if you ever read the book Way of the Peaceful Warrior,
No.
but it was a fantastic book. It had a lot of impact on me. I read it when I was 17, and then later, like in the 2000s, like 2005 or 6, they finally had the movie called Peaceful Warrior, and it was good. It was only a section of the book, because
Okay.
the book covered a lot of the guy's life, but it's a really good story. It's about being present and in the moment and all that
Sure.
stuff and those kind of things. So Peaceful Warrior would be number four.
Is it a martial arts movie? Because I know you said you're way into martial arts.
It isn't. I mean, there's
Okay.
some kind of martial arts in there. There's some crossover,
Yep.
but it's not a martial arts movie. As a matter of fact, the main guy is a gymnast.
Okay.
He's not a martial artist at all. He's
Gotcha.
a gymnast. The guy is named Dan Millman, and it's loosely based on a real life experience and then
Yep.
fiction in real life.
Okay.
There's a lot of fiction in it, but there's a lot of real life in it too. And Dan Millman was a gymnast. He was an Olympic gymnast and all that stuff. I mean, he was really good. Really broke his leg. You'll have to. I don't want to give it away, but you'll have to.
Okay.
See
Yeah,
it.
I will check it out. Peaceful Warrior.
Yeah, Peaceful Warrior. And let's see. I would number five would be I would have to say Enter the Dragon. Enter the Dragon.
Oh, fantastic movie.
Yeah. It's either between Enter the Dragon or The Last Dragon. I don't know if you ever saw that movie.
I didn't see The Last, but I've seen Enter the Dragon numerous times.
Yeah, The Last Dragon was that 80s kind of spoof movie. It wasn't a spoof, but it was definitely a hokey movie. It was a martial arts
have Bruce
movie.
Lee, right?
No, it did not. It had Bruce Leroy. He's a black guy who loved Bruce Lee and tried to.
I've never
imitate
seen
him.
that.
Oh, it's a fun show. It's a fun show. I mean, if you like martial arts shows, it's a fun show. Had Vanity in it.
I enjoy a good martial arts movie. Who's in it?
Vanity.
I don't know who that is.
Vanity, the singer. She used to go out with Prince.
I don't know who she is. I'll have to look that up.
Oh, she was a huge star in the 80s. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how I missed
died. I think she died not too long ago, unfortunately. But yeah, very beautiful girl. I mean, very beautiful girl.
She's in that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, she was a singer. She went out with Prince for a while. It was a big deal back in the late 80s or whatever. But yeah, really good martial arts in that movie and a lot of fun. But I definitely, Bruce Lee is an icon and definitely a hero of mine. And so I would have to at least have one of his movies on there. And I think that's the best one out of all of his films. So
yeah, I would agree.
All right, Stephen, I want to thank you so much for joining me on the program. Please let people know where they can reach you.
Yeah, I will. You can find me just, my name is Stephen, Stephen, and Sundstrom, Sundstrom. That's just the name of my channel as well.
Yes.
I'm on YouTube. And
right.
just a lot of videos about movies, TV, and whatever else I feel like talking about.
Right, right. Okay, so stick with me. I'm going to close out the show, but I want to
Sure.
talk to you
Yeah.
off air for just
Yeah.
a second. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching this episode or listening to this episode of Retro Serial. If you like what we're doing here on this channel, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. It means so much to me. These are small steps for you, but it means a lot to me here on the channel. If you want to go that one extra step, you can hit the bell notification, share it on your favorite social media. And if you are interested in donating some of your hard-earned cash to what we're doing here and helping me build this YouTube mogul empire, you can follow the link below to the Buy Me a Coffee page. It's something akin to Patreon. And if you are listening to this on audio only on a podcast platform, and you like what we're doing here, you're going to like what we're doing over on YouTube. I do have some exclusive stuff on YouTube that doesn't really transfer over to audio only. So check that out and hit the subscribe button and give me a rating and an honest review. It would mean a lot. So, all right. And we will talk to you again. We'll see you on another episode of Retro Serial. This is nostalgia that you can bite into.